guess I don't even need this, huh?
Yeah, no, you don't. Hi, guys, and welcome to How to Start an Argument 101. No, but for real, this is a really debated thing. And I was thinking about it, it's a good sign when there's so much diverse opinion about a video game, because that means that the game has excelled enough that some people have differing opinions about what their favorite is.
Right.
And if you can have so many people, of course there's the general consensus, right? But if you can have so many people say something different, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Some game series are like, no, this is the definitive game. This is the only one that you need to play, really, because all the others are trash. But that's not the case with this. And in fact, some of these games that are on the bottom of my tier list, the creators, Miyamoto, actually said that one of these on my lower list that I actually own and need to play through still, said that it's really actually high up on his list of favorite games. So, anyway, this is, obviously by the name of the title, my personal Zelda tier list. And I have Fizzy with me because Alex is going to give his opinion on the games that he's played and what he thinks about it. And I think that's important.
Which are few.
Right.
Which are few.
But
I haven't played a whole lot of them.
And I talked to a few other people at, the game stores, some at college things, and stuff like that. And their opinions were different than mine from what they've experienced, which is cool. Now, I've experienced a lot, and I feel like that gives maybe a little bit of credence, but it all comes down to preference and opinion.
Right.
So we're just going to explore that. So I had a lot of ideas in my head doing this list. I was going to do a numbered system, but I felt like that didn't do justice to the games that were equally as good as one another.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So what I did was...
It got really hot in that beanie. So
oh, man, yeah. So you're getting that crazy hair.
I'm getting that fan in my hair is what I'm doing.
So... making sure we weren't seeing like... from the fan, So, anyway, I created Mike's Zelda tier list. Hashtag my opinion. And, okay, so I had a lot of ideas, and I have explanations behind these, and that's what we're going to go through. My all-time favorite Zelda game ever has... Don't look at my lips! Trying to get ahead of the game.
Caught me looking.
My all-time favorite ever has got to be A Link to the Past.
Okay.
I don't know why. It's just been my preference that I really love that top-down feel of a Zelda game.
Yeah.
I feel like they execute
the more classic
them well.
versions.
Yeah, and I just enjoy it. But I also love that it does bring in that, cartoony aspect. But the story is solid. Great story. Falls in what happens to be apparently my favorite timeline. We'll get into that in a second. But that's not the only one. And I think this is one of the world's most overrated and overhyped game ever. But there's a good reason it belongs there, and that's Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
It was the first 3D Zelda game.
Right.
It kept all of the Zelda elements that were necessary for it and expanded on it.
Right.
It wasn't the most graphically impressive N64 game, for sure. But the game itself, there's a reason that it's so high on people's lists. And in fact, many top 10 games of all time have this at the top 2 or 3, at least. Most of which it's at number 1. Which, that alone, it's overhyped to an extent. But it is an amazing game.
Right.
And it really
it's earned its place.
Now, for me, this is interesting. I did my tier list not just based on my opinion, but also fact a little bit as well. There were a few aspects that went into me making this tier list. So it's still an S tier, is Majora's Mask. However, I put it below those two, not tied, for the simple fact of it borrowed heavily from Ocarina of Time, so it didn't need that level of creativity to create a whole new idea for 3D.
Right.
It could build on it. But also, I could never suggest anybody to play Majora's Mask first.
No.
I just couldn't. It doesn't portray the series as a Zelda game.
And you said you saw this happen, right? Somebody suggested Majora's Mask.
At a game store, I hear from around the corner. And it's like, I kind of want to start playing Zelda games. Which ones do you suggest? Oh, I think you should play Majora's Mask first. I was going to be like, excuse me! Like, no you don't. You're going to ruin it for them.
Oh,
But no, seriously, it's an amazing game. And it actually makes the top of the list of tons of people's top tier list. But I feel like it gets dropped down. It's still an S tier. And mind you, okay, before we even go any further in this, because we're going to go down the list, and there's some controversy in this. None of these are bad games. Truthfully, none of these are the CDI. I mean, none of these are terrible games. And so don't think that. But I have my reasons. Do you have any input on the S tier?
Not so far. I mean, I remember really enjoying Majora's Mask. And I definitely understand, like, no, if you haven't played Zelda games, don't play that first because you will be lost.
There's a third reason that knocks it down from the other, like the top 3 or the top 2. I'm gonna crush your soul here because it doesn't seem that bad until you pick up the game and play it again. Especially in the Spirit Temple, I think it was, where you have to swap out what mask you're using in different areas. You have to pause the game and go over to it and put it in the slot. And I think they fixed it in the 3DS version or whatever.
Oh my gosh!
Because you can just, I don't.
I actually just watched my soul float out the window over there.
I mean, it's not that bad once you get into it and you're really quick with swapping out anyways. Right. But it's just one of those things that's annoying. It was
like, who did this?
So, and this is actually S tier as well, and I almost skipped these. Thank goodness I didn't. And this gets
everything's S tier.
I have a lot of S tier. This falls below Majora's Mask, but this was a majority of my childhood, so nostalgia points. But also, not made directly by Nintendo.
Oh.
Oracle of Seasons and Ages. Now, I put those together. I know that's maybe a cop-out to some people. But you play those two together. They have amazing story.
As soon as you said it wasn't directly, I was
like,
ah!
Capcom, once again. Seasons has that exploration adventure feel to it more, and Ages is really puzzle heavy. Like some of the hardest puzzles.
And so many
memorable bosses.
Yeah, and so many like
dude, Nehru. That was okay. I'm sorry, but dude,
Michael's over here like.
I'll tell you what. There's that cutscene where Link is pulled over to dance with her or whatever while she's with the traveling band in disguise.
Oh yeah, I remember
the Oracle
that.
of Seasons.
Yeah.
And oh my goodness,
you almost got into a specific kind of art.
I said Nehru. I meant
the girl. I know
Nehru is the Oracle of Ages. What's her name? What is her name? It starts with an F. I just can't say it without reading it because I suck.
I don't remember.
Din. That's what it is.
Din.
F is
Fair War.
Yeah. Which is the goddess.
Yeah.
One of the 3 goddesses in the game. Anyway, so Capcom did amazing. The bosses were very unique. Harken back to all the Zelda elements. They implemented Rock's feather and cape extremely well.
Yeah.
But this is one that's interesting.
Well, and there were so many like urban myths surrounding the Oracle's games because of how it would do things in between.
This is incredible. This is something I didn't know about, and if I didn't know about it, you didn't know about it.
No, definitely didn't.
Gotta be. They have a collector's version of this game.
Really?
And I don't know. I saw a listing of its value, and it's like $2,000, and it has both games boxed complete with some poster artwork thing, and it's in a box like this, with it like gradiating from the red to the blue or whatever that's gradient, right?
Gradient. Yeah.
And it has a boomerang that also has that with like pictures.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in the thing.
That's pretty cool.
I was like, that's amazing. And it has a t-shirt and a couple other things in there. Yeah. And I'm like, that's insane. And I don't know if that's the true value. I don't know what it would go for on eBay. But they're extremely rare, apparently, because, I mean, anyway. Yeah, cool. So the last of my S tier, okay? And it's kind of almost tied with Oracle of Ages and Seasons.
Okay.
You want to take a jab?
Is it a top-down or a 3D?
It is a top-down. There's not very many 3D games.
It'd be between, like, knowing you and the way you talk about some of these games, it'd be between Link's Awakening and Minish Cap. Is what I would think would be your other S tier.
That's a good guess. It was Link's Awakening.
Okay.
Now, here's the beautiful thing about it. Link's Awakening, once again, Zelda key elements done extremely well. It's one of the games, one of the older games that a lot of Zelda fans have either never played or have played and never beaten.
Right.
Blows my mind.
I played it and never beat it.
But I'll tell you what, at first, the game doesn't really catch you and draw you right off the bat too much, and you don't think of it as being insanely great game, per se, until you start getting through the thing, and the whole basis of it. Spoiler alert: is this a dream world? And then it starts becoming verified. This is a dream world, and by the end, you know, you've got those games, The Last of Us. You get to the end, and instead of feeling victorious with the fireflies, it's like a punch to your gut.
Right.
Oh, but that's how this game was. It was the original The Last of Us gut punch.
Yeah, the original gut punch video game.
It was. Like, you did not... And I remember so vividly, my favorite scene is you sitting there just staring out to the ocean, and you're being talked to by that girl who saves you, you know, on the beach, sitting on the washed-up tree trunk. And she's talking about wondering about other worlds and wishing she was a seagull and could fly away. And, you know, and it's almost like you're not paying attention. But I think that what Link is going through is thinking about, I'm about to end you folks. And the great thing about this game, okay, and I had this idea. I have all these great ideas that Nintendo needs to use. Nintendo, watch these. Link's Awakening is the perfect thing to do another split timeline with single game spin-offs. Because it's in a timeline, but you're in a dream. So in the dream, what if you never woke the Windfish? And that was a twist on the story. And you went on to new adventures. You know, you could explore so much and never have to create a new timeline because it's just a different dream.
It's just a dream.
Yeah. It's brilliant. But they
cool.
don't execute on it. And it's something that would be cool to see. But I really think that's my final S tier. And it's done well. I even had some minor
Dude, I'm
things
yawning.
in there. We need to
be.
change seats. You're in the comfy chair. My A+ tier. What tops my A+ tier? Did you see it yet?
No. I don't know.
What would top your A+ tier that
Oh,
you've played?
I don't even know. I haven't even played enough of the Zelda games.
Or beat, I should say.
And
Completed.
Most of my answers probably just piss off people because I'm not even I like Zelda, but I'm not like, I wouldn't call myself
Avid.
a Zelda fan.
Yeah.
Right.
So the top of mine is one that almost would have made an S tier, but for the sake of not having too many S tiers, it got dropped down. And there's another reasoning behind it, is A Link Between Worlds.
Okay.
Now this is a newer one on 3DS. And I'll tell you what, dude, it borrows so heavily from A Link to the Past that if you want a nostalgia trip, that's the game. You play A Link to the Past growing up, this game is like gorgeous. Now, once again, it gets dropped down because it's borrowing from that world a lot, like map design. But that does not mean that the creativity is not there. It's really good. And the freedom, you know, to be able to go places and do things at your own pace and wherever you want to is nice. But then Nintendo always throws in a new element that makes it kind of unique to that game,
Right.
which is that molding to the wall thing as a painting. Oh,
Yeah.
done so well with the crack in time and stuff between worlds. So good, quirky bosses, great story. Really another gut punch to the stomach game, though.
Yeah.
Which is real good. Once you get to the end, you hear the story and everything makes sense. It's like, oh, man. It's so good. And then these two are tied. And technically, I put one above the other for a good reason. And maybe you can understand. Because I know you've played both of these. You just didn't beat them. Or you didn't beat one of them. The next on my A+ tier is Twilight Princess and Wind Waker. Now, they are, I would consider them tied in a way. To this date, I still think that technically Twilight Princess is one of the best looking Zelda games ever. Breath of the Wild is beautiful, but I feel like because the world was so massive, they kind of copped out with their stylized art because everything has very smooth texture to it. So you don't have to put extra graphics into that because the shading. And I like that art style.
Yeah, that's a
and
fair
it's unique
criticism.
to that.
Yeah.
But I felt like it was them making a good, it's a beautiful, appealing art style, but I felt like they did it also to save memory on the card.
Probably.
By the way, Nintendo said that they're working on making a 64 sized of their, to make bigger, better looking games.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's being made by a specific company who's outputting very specialized carts. Those little Switch carts are expensive to make.
Yeah.
So it's just going to take some time, R&D and stuff, you know.
Yeah, I remember really liking Twilight Princess, and it's one of the few Zelda games that I did beat from beginning to end, and I really, really liked that game.
You know, Miyamoto said it was his favorite 3D game, even beating Ocarina of Time.
I remember
built it.
That being the one he was talking about.
He said he built it to beat that game. Like, that's what it... And it borrows a bit from that world in a lot of aspects, you know. But I also like the aspect of how they designed the Zora and the Gorons. I'll get into that topic a little bit later for Breath of the Wild. But anyway, it's tied with Wind Waker. Right. Now... The reason I have Wind Waker, like, literally a hair down is that both have what's called extended fetch quest, is what I call them. And the teardrops that you have to find as Wolf Link weren't terribly hard to find because a good bulk of them were near each other. Some were spread out, and it was okay. And it wasn't all that interesting. Now, Wind Waker was the same. However, Wind Waker felt so out of place. And here's the issue, is that Twilight Princess kind of does this, right? But I felt like Wind Waker, what it did was this, and then off the grid down below, you're sailing around, having to buy these expensive maps, sail around, and use your little crane with very few puzzles, and the puzzles weren't all that amazing puzzles to find the other pieces, to complete the part of the Triforce, and then it spikes back up with a really cool story. And that's why I just got knocked down a little bit, is that even the game developers came back and said that they were sorry for rushing that and throwing it into the game. Which lets you know, yeah, this was rushed. Which is not a bad thing. Fun fact for you is that Majora's Mask was made in a year's time.
Right.
That's that. And in fact, there have been multiple Nintendo games like that. And some of them...
Well, I mean, you see that in
the
Majora's
music...
Mask. You know, it was a lot of Ocarina of Time assets reused and reskinned, which was fine.
I think it was 4 weeks. Earthbound or Mother 3 or whatever it is, that game, they were scrapping a lot of the music or getting more music in there because they needed to make a new song for a scene because they wanted to fit the scene properly.
Yeah.
And literally made a song like 4 weeks before the game came out. And composed it, everything, put it in there. Like, Nintendo is notorious for chunking things in like this. But yeah, whenever people come back and say sorry for things, yeah. So we're getting into the A tier. Once again, these are all good games. These two are tied with a possible variance on the tie was Minish Cap tied with Breath of the Wild. Minish Cap was a really short game.
I know you loved it though. Like when you were playing it, you could not stop talking about it. I remember when you got it and you were like, "Dude, this game," and then
well, and maybe you can understand this because I know that.
And I remember you loaned it to me, and you
Did
dogged
you beat it?
me. Yes, you dogged me for months because I didn't beat it.
And maybe you
I
can
still never played it.
Maybe you can attest to this though. First of all, once again, they do a really good job of bringing in the Zelda elements to it, dungeons and all that stuff. But they put a new twist on it. A lot of the things that you're doing are typical Zelda everyday bosses monsters, but now you're seeing it from a new light, or I guess a new size.
Right.
You know?
A new size.
Yeah. So it's really, really cool, you know? The puzzles are good. It's a quick, short game. It's easy to pick up and play again. And it's got good replayability. The replay value is very high. But the thing I think I enjoyed most about that, and I hope you can appreciate this as much as I did, was their ability, and Zelda games don't do this often, pulling our world's folklore and legend into that. The Minish, the Kiori, or whatever they're called, I don't know, the Minish, are like based on the little shoemaking elves and you know what I'm saying? Like they have references to that kind of stuff in the game, and it's just that's a beautiful thing. I love that they execute it. It's like the Keeblers, you know.
When you take pop culture, urban myths,
and put a well done twist on it that just fits the world.
Yeah, I appreciate stuff like that too.
They made the shoe for him while he was sleeping. That's brilliant, you know, and stuff like that. Breath of the Wild. Now, here's the controversy. Here's where you start all the arguments and people click off the video.
Here's where you lose your friends. And
this one is tough. And I've played through. I'm now at the second. I'm at the elephant. I did the eagle or whatever, and now I'm at the elephant.
Now, you haven't played through this game before, right?
I have not completed it.
Okay,
That's
this
why I
is
said
one
it's
that I have finished.
This is why I said it's subject to change. It could go up. It could stay where it's at, and I doubt it's going to go down because there's so many great things that they've added into the Zelda world in this game. The climbing, the elemental hazards.
I'm going to make this
love the
prediction.
horses and stuff.
I think that once you play through the original base game, it's going to stay where it is. But when you play through the DLC stuff, I think it'll maybe move up a little bit, maybe above Minish Cap.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I agree with your placing.
And here's the thing about it: it's missing 90% of Zelda unique items. Think about that. Now it adds in some cool stuff. I really liked how the bombs worked, and that bombs are traditional bows. But
I think I would have definitely preferred
a real
Rock's feather to the glider.
Yeah.
You know, if the old man shows up with the feather and is like, "Hey, I've got
lore
this
behind it." Yeah,
I've got this feather. Man, I almost said something and like spoiled something massive for you. I was about to like be mad at myself. Anyway, I would have loved for him to show up with the feather and just be like, "Hey, I had this laying around. It's better than a kite. Because who uses a kite?" This isn't Wind Waker.
Yeah. But no, it is missing a lot of those things. But here's the other thing. I love the addition of the shrines and the beast.
Yeah. Oof, they got you.
Okay, still recording. I missed I love the beast, but those dude, I'm sorry, dude. It was a cakewalk. I'm sorry, but maybe as having played a lot of hard Zelda games, the beasts, dude,
they were not hard.
So easy. And there's no super unique bosses at the end. The bosses are I already know this. No spoiler alert for here. Calamity Ganon is literally just a collection of the other little Ganon things that you fought.
Right.
And it's like, Zelda's known for the dongo with bombs in its mouth, and the floor's literally got a face as it's spitting rocks at you. Right. And this is what makes Zelda great. The big ball chain thing with a tail behind it that knocks you down.
Oh man, that thing.
The worst boss ever!
Or the Yeti in Twilight Princess.
But they're so unique. And that's missing. That is missing. The dungeons.
The fish in Majora's Mask.
Yeah. But those things are missing out of this game, and it really does. And so far, and I don't know fully, and of course you don't have to play through this. That's the other thing. You're not forced to meet the main characters.
Right, that's true.
You
can glide down to Ganon, do a few things, and kill him with a stick.
and that's the thing is like these characters, even whenever you do play through the story, they have some good background, but they're so underdeveloped. Now, I'm okay with the story so far on the Zora girl, love interest of Zelda,
Mipha,
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mipha. Now, I've just started doing that, and that's the other thing. This is going to sound so terrible.
You get the smoke coming out your ears.
I don't mind the variation design on the Zoras. That's okay, and how some of them
you mean the different creatures?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm okay with that. I like that the king is a big, huge guy again, like it ought to be.
Yes.
The King Zora is huge. But the over-anime, Japanified version of, like, the prince. And it zooms in on him constantly, and I'm like, this doesn't match. It doesn't fit the same way. And it's not the right kind of quirkiness for a Zelda quirk. And I don't mind those types of things if they're executed well.
There was a level of like cheesy quirkiness to things like Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask where they had those moments, but it was never overwhelming. It was always done in such a way that was like, it was funny, and then the character was being developed
but
whatever.
He does that little like thing like 7 times,
every time. Yeah.
And do you know what else? It's like whenever this was terrible, but it wasn't required. You never had to deal with this in the main story. On Twilight Princess, the crazy two, like, it gets gay guys or whatever with the chicken little mini game thing, the cuckoos over the Lake Hylia. Remember those two guys wearing like the weird
yes.
That's like another level of weird, dude. It had a little hint of Zelda humor to it, or weirdness, right? Quirkiness.
Yeah.
But like it just wasn't executed extremely well.
Yeah,
it just
weird.
was awkward.
It felt thrown in and weird.
Yeah, and that's how I felt about the Zora prince.
There's always been stuff like that in Zelda, but like I said, it's always been
like Beetle.
Yeah, it's always been like that.
And like, anyway, so, and you know what? There's actually another one I threw on, moving along on the list. The A tier, the bottom of the A tier here, I threw on Spirit Tracks. Now, I haven't played this one, but I threw it there simply because, moving on to B+, I have on this list, by the way, B+. These aren't in any specific order on B+, because I feel like so many of them I haven't played, so I can't compare them. This is where I've deposited my opinions of games. Phantom Hourglass, though, is not a bad game. Actually, Miyamoto, I think it was also that said that was one of his favorite games on the handhelds. I don't see it, but but that's his opinion, and I respect that. But, you know, I have heard from everybody that Spirit Tracks is a little bit better than it. They prefer Spirit Tracks. So that's why I put Spirit Tracks thrown up there. I haven't played it, and I don't even own it. It's the only game I don't have some version of, actually, in the CDI trash. Four Swords Adventure. I threw that on there because that's actually part of the official timeline. So that's included. I put Zelda 1 down there. Oh, heresy. No, I put Zelda 1 down there because anytime that you get a game where the original came with a booklet that you pretty much were required to have to use to play through the game comfortably. Nowadays, of course, with internet being so accessible, we have maps and other helps that we can look up. But no, that game gave you nothing.
Okay.
It told you nothing. You wouldn't see where to bomb things to find stuff. Now, I beat that game. I went through there and I beat Zelda 1. And some people love it.
Yeah.
I have no drive to go back and play it. Replayability, I get on there and have fun, but it's like, this is just such a grindy game. I don't remember where everything's hidden. And it's just, I don't know. And everyone goes back to, Breath of the Wild. I'm not trying to dog on it because it is an amazing game. but they're like, oh, it's just like the original though. I'm like, no, it's far from it, which is actually a good thing for Breath of the Wild. But also, you can't really say that because here's my opinion. You have first game. You have trickle-down games, right? You don't like where the series went. You want to reboot it, so you start off just like the original and go a different direction. That's okay. Awesome. Yeah, it's just like the original. They're trying a new thing because it sucked after the original. Zelda's not that case. They've had plenty of great games with adding to the formula slowly over time. You don't need to go back to square one.
Right.
There's no point in that. Just keep adding on to the great formula that we have. Zelda's not some failed game series.
Right.
This franchise is great. And that's my issue. But also, Zelda 1 was the first game and didn't know what it wanted to be other than an adventure game. It didn't know. There's so much that it didn't know. That's why Zelda 2 was so different from it. Now, I feel like Zelda 2 was... It's also on this list. Let's see here. I have Zelda 2, Phantom Hourglass. I put Skyward Sword down there. That might go up. Some people really enjoyed it. And apparently a lot of things from Breath of the Wild is borrowed from there, like the stamina stuff. But I haven't played it at all. So I have nothing to go off. And I know when it happens in the timeline, I get the basic idea of it. But I have no clue about it. So anyway, yeah. It's just one of those things where Zelda 2, I feel like deserves a newer version of it where it's zoomed out, feels less cheap, has a better overworld. Obviously good graphics. It would be great, not necessarily on the Switch per se, although it wouldn't be bad on that for on-the-go gaming, but I felt like it'd be a very welcome addition to a 3DS game, or just on the DS in general, you know, to be like a Metroidvania style feel to it, but dungeons.
Yeah, I do also wonder how well received a overworld turn-based combat Zelda game would be.
Yeah, and you know, like I said, all these games are great, and we were talking about how an RPG almost feel to it would be. And that would be, I feel like going back to Link's Awakening, that world is very rich and it doesn't have to be just that world. You could literally do anything you want to in a dream. So you can create any land you want to for Zelda in that and try it out. And it has no effect on the timeline series at all. It's a beautiful thing. And it's one of those things to where what if Link didn't wake up the Windfish?
Right.
What if Link disappeared and darkness was still there and people had to band together and do what Link was not strong enough to do?
Dude, you're talking about Hyrule Online.
A lot of people want that. If there was a Hyrule Online that was like ESO, maybe a little simplified. Dude, ESO's great, but man, there's just so much it's too intimidating for newcomers. It's just like, dude.
And you're saying that to someone who plays ESO a good bit, and I agree. It's a little overwhelming for people just getting into it. They're like, "What am I supposed to do with all this?" Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Hey, that's good.
Yeah. What are your opinions on my list?
I agree with most of your placements, but most of my agreement comes from ignorance because I haven't played a lot of these. The only ones I have finished are Breath of the Wild. I didn't finish Majora's Mask.
Ocarina of Time.
I didn't finish Ocarina of
Time. No. You stopped at the Water Temple.
I finished Twilight Princess. Yeah, I stopped at the Water Temple. Because, no, I didn't even get to the Water Temple. I did the Forest Temple, and then I couldn't figure out how to get to the Water Temple or something like that. I got stuck.
The Gorons.
After the Gorons? No, I got stuck after the Forest Temple.
Oh, okay.
So, I got stuck and just, like, rage quit and was like, I'm going to play something else. And this is, like, way...
So, Breath of the Wild, Twilight Princess?
I think those are the only two I finished.
Not Minish Cap?
Oh, I finished Zelda 1. Okay. Story time. Because you have to do one of these for the end of this video. My greatest Zelda memory.
Soul Calibur 2.
Yeah! When you finally pull off that final move. No. My favorite memory with a Zelda game. And the one that sticks out anytime I play a Zelda game, this is the one thing I think of. Like, it's the singular defining moment in any Zelda game I've ever played. Was playing Zelda 1. And I remember playing it at my aunt's house. My aunt had an old NES, and every time that my parents would go out on their trips, I would stay with her. And it'd be for like weeks at a time. They'd be gone for because they would take whole teams with them and train them on site. So they would be gone for weeks at a time. And so they would leave me there with my aunt, and I would be playing games on her NES or whatever whenever we had free time to do that. And she pulled out Zelda. And I remember thinking, okay, this looks pretty cool. I liked adventure kind of stuff. I had played adventure on the Atari because she had an Atari. And it reminded me a lot of it. I was like, oh, it's like adventure. And she goes, yeah, it's kind of like that. So she lets me play this for like months. And I got through like the first dungeon. I'm like 8.
Yeah.
You know? And so she lets me get through the first dungeon. And when I finish the first dungeon, she says, okay, I got to show you something. She goes to the back room and pulls out a graph notebook. Okay?
Note-taking of the...
Maps. Hand-drawn maps. Every cube she had written in the world map. She had the entire overworld mapped.
Wow.
Okay? And then every page was every cube. And she had it like as a grid, right? So she would have the first one. This is A1. A2. Wow. Page 2 was A2. A3. And she had every bomb wall, every secret, every path, the fastest path to each dungeon. She had every enemy. There were like how many enemies were in each room and stuff like that. And this is my aunt who never played video games. Like she had the NES, right, and the Atari. That was it. And the only stuff she had on it was fun stuff like she had Excitebike, I think, yeah, stuff like that. Old games. And Zelda was one that she had spent so much time on and made this notebook, and she brought it out. And I remember dedicating years, literal years, as I would stay with her, to deciphering every secret in her notebook.
That's awesome.
And added to it, actually, which was pretty cool. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, the memories that Zelda brings is a beautiful thing. I think the fact that people disagree so heavily on it is one of its beautiful things about it. You know, some people have mixed opinions about video games in general, you know, whatever, or types of video games even too.
Sure.
But it's something that brings people together, you know? And I think that so long as you can kind of get an understanding as to why people think the way that they think about certain games, you know, online is just full of hatred and like bickering and stuff about stuff.
And part of that is breeded by the fact that a lot of games now are made to make a quick buck, and they're not made to make memories.
Yeah.
And those memories are what cause people to band together. And I think we should make a video about that. We should talk about the decline of the gaming community.
I agree.
And talk about how that has changed.
And one last bit of trivia for you on the NES Zelda. This is really cool.
I may know this. I don't know.
This is really cool.
Is there a way to ask it like a question? Oh, the freaking
Pose voice?
Were they called Pose voice? What were they called?
I think so. The little rabbits.
Yeah.
Jumped around. In the manual, I think they called that. In the manual, they have weaknesses to attacks and what else? What do they hate? It says that they hate this.
Oh man, I can't remember.
This is really cool. A lot of people don't know this. Or I guess some people probably do if they've watched enough.
What was it?
Okay, so it says that they hate loud noises. They hate it. Well, in the NES version, it means nothing to us. It's like, well, what's the point of that? The Super Famicom.
That's right.
It had controller that with a microphone on it.
Oh my god!
And you could yell really loud into that microphone, and it would kill all the rabbits in the room.
I was like,
that's so cool. Why is that not implemented into like microphone stuff nowadays? Oh wait, it doesn't even have a microphone, does it? I don't think it does.
Dude, I remember that, but I don't. Like, cause I remember seeing those rabbits and thinking, what is the point of those things?
Yeah.
And I remember my aunt saying something. Yeah, I remember my aunt saying something about, oh, yeah, you can just ignore them.
So, like, if a second player's with you, kind of like Tingle was controllable as a bomber. It just costed rupees on Wind Waker.
Dude, I remember that.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, let me know your opinion down in the comment section if you're still watching this video. If it's a long video, but you're probably left after hearing that Breath of the Wild wasn't on top of the list. So, you know, if you disagreed with my list, anyway, leave a like. I'll get more likes that way. And, but no, seriously, let me know in the comment sections why you like certain games more than others. And that'd be awesome to read there. Keep on keeping on, guys.